Namaste everyone. We got an amazing guest today whose name is Micheal Nabireeba and who is a co-founder of NEMA Counseling Center and who work as a clinical psychologist and counselor in NEMA Counseling Center based in Kenya. So today's our topic is work-life balance and its impact on mental health. So we're gonna start it without any interruption. So sir, please proceed and we welcome you all. Thank you so much for being here. So kindly proceed.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Michael. I'm a clinical and counseling psychologist. This presentation comes to you live from Divya Karuna organization and in collaboration with NEMA Counseling Center. And today we are here to share about work-life balance and its impact on mental health. At times, people fail to balance between work and then their personal life. Sometimes they go to the other extreme, and in the end, they find they are mentally breaking down, either because they are overwhelmed by work and are not taking care of themselves, or they have so much into their life and then they pay less time to work. And so, in the end, they get overwhelmed. So today, this presentation talks about how can we balance between work and life so as to be able to maintain a healthy mental lifestyle, or in case you fail to balance, what could be the impact on your mental health? Next. Okay, what do you understand by the term work-life balance? Perhaps you could ask yourself, wherever you are seated, whether you are watching me from this time, what do you understand by this, according to you? Maybe before we could get into, maybe as we get into the explanation part of it, according to you, how do you understand the work-life balance? How do you define it? Next on our slides. And what does mental health mean to you? So we are trying to ask ourselves two questions: work-life balance and then mental health. We are trying to look at the relationship between the two. When do you become mentally well? Is it when you balance between life and work? Sometimes if you give more time to work and maybe you neglect your life, do you most likely to suffer mental-related illnesses? Or if you focus so much on life and again you find you can't spend any time for work, the same way as you are likely to suffer mental-related challenges. But when you strike the balance, then we are able to talk about mental health. Next. And so, work-life balance refers to one's ability to meet his or obligations, demands at work or career, and their personal life. To achieve this, of course, one has to know or you identify your priorities, both in their career and their personal life. It involves creating an art of achieving satisfaction by effectively managing oneself and other aspects of life. So, in general, we all understand that we cannot have life outside work, and we cannot have work outside life. Every one of us wakes up in the morning and you leave your home to go and do something outside there. But then and maybe and at times we also have time to be by ourselves. For example, meet up with friends, be with the family, or do anything that maybe pleases you, their personal life, your way of doing things. And so we are trying to look at the ability or your potential to meet your duties at work, and then you are able also to strike a balance or not to neglect your own life. That's what we call work-life balance. You're able to meet the equilibrium so that none of the two is outweighing the other. That's what we understand by work-life balance. And when you talk about mental health, it's a state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make contribution to his or her community. And that definition is according to the World Health Organization. And so when we talk about mental health, it is just a state of well-being, and it encompasses or it includes the emotional well-being, the psychological well-being, and then the social well-being. For example, if maybe emotionally you are not well, it is most likely to influence your physical or even your psychological wellness, and even the way you relate with the people in the end also will be impacted. So when we talk about mental health, it is just the whole sum that when someone is physically well, someone is emotionally well, automatically he or she will be psychologically stable, and then socially you can relate with others. So it also helps to determine how we relate with ourselves, others, and the world outside there. Of course, for example, if I am not feeling well emotionally, then I may even at times neglect my own self. I don't take care of myself. I may enter into feelings of sadness or self-rejection. And of course, because I'm feeling unwell, that means the way I relate with others also will be affected. I can't interact freely with others. I can't maybe cheer up in a group. I can't laugh. I cannot accommodate others in my circle because I feel rejected. And of course, that means now even the world outside me in a way will be affected. So when we talk about mental health, we talk about the general well-being of an individual, whereby you're able to discover what are my abilities, and you are in a situation of to cope, or you are able to manage the different stresses that come along with life, and then you are in position to work productively, and you're able to produce results without any kind of hindrance. And so, what are the characteristics of a good mental health? Like, when can we talk of a person being mentally well? Of course, a person who is mentally well feels good about themselves. They are so proud of themselves. They are so cheerful. They feel comfortable with others. That is, they find no problem being in the company of others or accommodating others. They are always in a position of meeting the demands of life. Yes, stresses may come here and there, but then at the end of the day, they are able to sail through and achieve their goals or plans. And of course, they express emotions in a healthy way. For example, take an emotion of anger. It is normal to get angry, it is normal to feel sad. But then, for example, if someone came to you today and finds you in a state whereby you are angered and maybe they greet you, do you project out the anger to them, or do you respond to them in an angered way? So how you pass on your emotions to others, how you react during the emotional states of your life or times of your life, then uh, good men, I mean, an individual with a good mental health, they are always optimistic. That is, they are positive about life. They always think positively. They are not always preoccupied with negativity. They are always productive in whatever they do, whatever they think, whatever they touch to do with their hands, always yields results because they are well coordinated and they understand exactly what they are doing. And then they exhibit what we call coexistence. That is, they accommodate others in whatever they do. They do it in relation of how what I'm doing will affect the other person, or how do I accommodate this person in my own lifestyle. That is, they are able to work as a team because they can emotionally balance. I mean, they can control their emotions, they know what to do, they are mentally well, and so they can carry out their responsibilities without affecting the other person. They use what we call health coping skills. In life, we are always faced with the challenges. For example, I am stressed, I am overwhelmed. If I went to drink maybe alcohol for me to cope with the stress, yes, it's a coping skill, but is it a healthy one? So compared to someone, for example, if someone is stressed and moves out to go and take a rest, of course, someone who has taken a rest is using what we call a positive coping mechanism. Or if someone goes to do an exercise, that's how we can positively cope with health challenges. Then they have good decision making. Someone who is in a good mental state, they don't just make abrupt decisions or even make decisions out of anger. They think through the decisions that they make, and they also think about what are the most likely challenges that maybe might result out of the decision that I am taking. And then they always involve in effective conflict resolution. They also adapt well to changes. They are not overwhelmed in case maybe moments of change where they have to shift from one environment to another comes up. And then they cultivate healthy relationships. And then they are always assertive because they believe in themselves that whatever they desire to do, whatever they wish to do, they can do it without any form of failure. So in case you are able to, if you're able to exhibit all these indicators amidst and others, which I have not talked about, then it's a clear indicator that you are in a good mental health state. Next. And so, what are the indicators of poor mental health? So, in case you are feeling what we have just finished in the previous slide, then or whatever if you're experiencing that in lifestyle, then mentally you are doing well. But then when it comes to what we are getting into, in case you exhibit such kind of symptoms or indicators, that means you might be experiencing a poor mental health state. And so, feeling sad, for example, if you are always anxious, and sometimes you can be out of touch with reality. For example, you do things that are out of the norm, that maybe are not expected of a human being. And for example, maybe we have known about people who are psychotic, who hear voices, or who go maybe to seeing things that others cannot see, that what we call the delusions, hearing voices that others cannot hear. All these symptoms are an indicator that you are out of touch with reality, and therefore an indicator that you might be in a poor, you are in a poor mental health state. And so self-neglect. Most of us, whenever we are challenged, we kind of neglect ourselves. We don't take care of ourselves. Maybe at times don't adhere to medication. And so it's an indicator that mentally you could be going through something that is not good. And then we talk about being suicidal. None of us ever wishes to take their own life. We all wish to live and live out our lifespan. But when time comes and you find that you must take your life, then that means there is a challenge that you are going through that maybe may call for you to address it. So by the time you begin to think of committing suicide, then it's a clear indicator that something has gone wrong. Something is not right with your whole being. And then when you begin to withdraw from friends and activities, for example, this is one of the symptoms of depression. You lose interest in the activities that maybe you used to like it for, and maybe you lose interest in being with friends. You want to isolate yourself and be alone in your own room, in your own chamber, because you feel worthless. You don't feel like you should be with others. Life has lost meaning for you. And so it's an indicator that mentally you are not doing well. Then we talk about physiological pains that maybe may come out of fatigue. Maybe you are so much stressed until you begin to experience a number of bodily pains. And then at times you are restless. Perhaps you are anxious, or you are going through a number of fears, or you are overwhelmed by situations that you cannot overcome by your own self. And so you become restless. You can't sit here, you can't sleep, you can't do anything. And then we also talk about low concentration levels, and then that you go to work, you can't even concentrate. You are at home, you're not focused. Maybe, for example, you are thinking about so many things that are kind of distracting you. Then we have extreme mood changes. We all have moods, and our moods always change once in a while with time. But then whenever you go to an extreme, then that indicates that there could be something that is not healthy that you are going through. Then we talk about irritability, being irritated in a way. And so all these indicators are indicators of poor mental health. And the ones I've finished in the previous slide are the indicators of good mental health. So in case you are able to, you can now begin to identify where do I fall, or what are the most indicators that I could, or symptoms that I could be exhibiting currently in my lifestyle. Next. So, work life expectations. You know, when we talk about work, we think about making profits, because maybe perhaps you are doing business. We talk about maybe sales, the work or the job that you are doing, or a company where you are employed. They will expect you to make sales. Of course, they will ask you, or they will call you to work so hard, because they have to produce results, or the output has to increase. And then also, the bosses are there, the management is there. They expect you to have meetings, they expect you to have, let's say, presentations. Maybe, for example, you are a manager, maybe you are like a team leader. They expect you to do trainings for the team, to do supervisions, to at times work may call you to work overtime. For example, maybe in East Africa here, we always leave work at 5 p.m., but maybe you may find that there's a deadline that you have to meet, or that maybe may call for you to push beyond 5 p.m. Or sometimes you might be in the field that you may not make it at your home, that you have to work maybe past the working hours, maybe in up to the night. And then life, of course, we expect them to be healthy, and also life expects us to belong to a family. Like maybe you have a family, you have where you come from, and you're supposed to contribute something towards your family, or towards the well-being of your family. And also life expects us to have hobbies, like swimming, music, self-care, whatever the different things that we do whenever we are taking care of ourselves. And then life expects you to do some moments of refreshing. Talk about having some moments of doing exercises, resting once in a while, maybe visiting friends, having some family conversations. And then life expects us to have children, take care of them, and may also have quality time with our family. And then it expects us to be happy, to relax, and to love. And so we are always torn apart, just like we see in the image, that life expects me, to do ABCD, but also the other side, work expects me to be into that. So we are always lost into that kind of tension. Where should I fall? If you put so much time on your work, then the other side of life, things may go astray. And also, if you focus so much on your personal life, that means you may lose focus on work. And so when we fail to strike the balance, in the end, we tend to be overwhelmed, and then our mental state kind of gets affected. Thank you so much for the comments. I appreciate. Next slide. Okay, just like an addition of what I've just been explaining. Work-life expectations, it's just a continuation. When we look at the image, for example, on my left side, we see the father. Of the child. The child is telling him, "Dad, when are we going to play football?" This is a child who would expect to have some good time with with his dad, so that they can have time. Like, he's a kid, he's a young child, so he would expect that to be available for him, to give him time. But the dad is telling him, "Don't forget the meeting." Worker is telling the dad, "Don't forget the meeting tomorrow. Have you looked at the spreadsheets yet?" So the dad is torn apart. Life in his son is calling for his attention, but then at office he's being told, "Please don't forget the meeting." And so you are torn apart in, do I attend the meeting? Do I attend to my child? So that tension that comes in affects our mental health. Then on the other side, we see a lady who has picked up her bags, and she's going to work. And then she's saying, "Oh my God, I forgot I have children." You are at office, you are working, you're overwhelmed with work, you can't even log out, you cannot shut down your laptop. but time comes whereby you are like something sparks in your mind. Children at school, maybe they have to be picked, and then you begin to panic. Maybe you can't run through the jam, and all these things kind of bring a lot of tension and anxiety and affects our mental well-being in the end. Next. And so here is just like a summary of what work expects of us and what life expects of us. Maybe some of them I might have gone through them already, but it will lose nothing maybe to have them in such a kind of a summary. So we talk about work expects me and you to be productive. At office, they need results. In the field, they need results. In the garden, for the farmers, when we go to work, we need results. And then work expects you to be, timeliness. You must report at work on time and then also be able to meet deadlines. They expect you to have positive attitude towards work and even towards your team members, maybe those whom we work with. Work expects you to be dependable. That is, that the organization or the company that you are working for can easily rely on you, can easily depend on you. You know, they expect you to be presentable. You can't just appear in an office when you are dressed shabbily. They expect you to be smart, to be representable. That maybe even if you are sent outside there, you can represent the organization well, and the general appearance, how groomed are you? They work expects you to be a team player, because you can never work in isolation. You must always work with others. But then if you find that maybe you have issues that cannot allow you to collaborate or coexist with others, then it becomes a very big challenge. Work expects effective communication from you. Do you use the proper communication lines? Do you communicate in time? Do you communicate properly, and is your message always passed on in a clear and dignified way to avoid confusion in a workplace? Also, work expects me and you to meet deadlines and to be self-motivated. That not every time, not every now and then, someone will always call you and tell you, you have to do this, you have to do this. You have to be self-driven. Then work expects you to work hard and smart. And we're also, work also expects you to be confidential in your way of doing things, like not speaking about maybe the earnings, the documents, the grants, the donations, or the profits that maybe your employer company could be making. Also maybe also for those maybe working with organizations, you may be asked, and maybe you serve vulnerable communities, you may be asked to keep confidential for the information of the people that you serve, for this, protect them, because it is also their right. And so when we come to life expects you to take care of ourselves and others. For example, a parent, or a father or a mother, you have to take care of yourself, but also you have to think about children for whom you are the breadwinner. Also, life expects us to be responsible, to socialize. We can never live in isolation. Life expects you to live up to your potential until you are at that point whereby you are self-actualized. You feel fulfilled. You don't feel like you have wasted your life. You feel you have invested in your efforts in whatever you do, and at the end of the day, you are like, yes, I did it. Also, life expects you to have self-awareness. You know your weaknesses, you know your areas of strength, you know what you can manage to do, what you cannot manage to do. And so this helps you kind of prioritize, and maybe also to seek support in case there is anything that you may not do on your own. And so we have time pressures. In life, we go through different stages. For example, here in Africa or East Africa, sometimes maybe a female person, the society expects you that by 30 or by 25 years of age, you are supposed to be getting married. And so when it's so happens that maybe you are reaching 30, 35 and not married, and so people begin to ask, how comes you're not married at this time? And also as an individual, you begin to get on pressure and say, time has come, I'm getting late, why am I not getting married or what? And all these things, they kind of overwhelm us and create a lot of anxiety, thereby affecting our mental well-being. It also affects us men, because you find that they are a man of 30, they say, I'm not yet married. What could be the problem? Could there be an issue? Those are all societal stereotypes that may be in the long run, that they come as life expectations, and also they can affect our mental well-being. Then also we have gender responsibilities. For example, men were supposed to be the breadwinners, the heads of our families, but then time comes whereby maybe you find the woman or the wife is now the breadwinner, or is like the one taking charge of the family, and all this comes with a lot of tensions. Next. Okay, work-life balance. We must strike a balance between above expectations of work and of life by ensuring to deliver both fields without compromising our mental health. So, at the end of the day, we must work, but also we must attend to our families or our personal lives to what makes life for us outside there. But in whatever we do, health comes first. Our mental well-being comes first. Because if you are mentally down, for example, maybe you have run out of your mind, definitely you cannot attend to work, neither can you attend to your family duties and responsibilities. So in whatever you do, your mental health should be prioritized or and not compromised. If you feel you don't take in much that you cannot you cannot finish, that maybe in the end will end up stressing you, and again you find the next day you can't work, and then failure to balance between the two, of course, will lead to one being underserved, and what still can lead to mental breakdown or exhaustion, which is characterized by several factors. For example, if you give most of your time to work, that means your family, for example, or even your personal life has been neglected. On the other hand, also, if you give so much time to your personal life, that means work may be neglected and you may end up losing the job, maybe which has been giving you some income. So we need to strike the balance to avoid exhaustion or getting tired or getting burnout or breaking down. And this can be classified into different factors. Next. And so we look at the impact of work life imbalance on our mental health. If me and you, we failed to balance between work and life, what impact is it most likely to cause on our mental health? Work-life imbalance, if not recognized, can progressively lead to different mental illnesses. These illnesses often manifest through signs and symptoms as previously highlighted in indicators of poor mental health. For example, you can suffer a depression. You are at work, you're overwhelmed by work, but you're at office working, you are thinking about maybe the home responsibilities. So, for example, maybe when work is too much, it may begin as a minor stress, but slowly by slowly, it will keep on graduating until you are able to hit a depression. Anxiety, it comes because we are overwhelmed. For example, you are working very far from your family, and you are always worried, how is my family surviving? Are they safe? Could they be sickly? How could everyone be doing that side? And sometimes maybe we are given assignments and also they overwhelm us, they bring a lot of anxiety. And so there's also what we call increased stress and burnout. Maybe each one of us who is listening from me here, to me here, you can think about that very first day which when you entered your first job or your office, that zeal and the passion that you entered with, is it the same today? No, of course. Why? Because there was a burnout. You came with a lot of energy, and passion, but as time went on, maybe other factors came around you. Maybe it's life kept on pushing you the other side. Also, work is overwhelming here, and in the end, you are torn apart. You are burnt out. And you can no longer become productive the way you used to be. There's also what we call vicarious trauma results. maybe for those who may not understand vicarious trauma, this is, for example, if you are working with, let's say, cancer patients, the pain that you keep on seeing them go through every day in a way also affects you, because you are in that environment of pain where people are always screaming, people are always in pain. And so there's something that we can call secondary trauma, the trauma that is maybe passed on to you because of dealing with a different affected group of people, or being, carrying one activity routinely without changing. But if you are able to, let's say you are able to be in that environment, but again you have your time to kind of do what we call emotional balance, you process or whatever that you see, you're able to take care of yourself, then you find chances may be less that you are likely to suffer this type of trauma. Next. There's also what we call post-traumatic stress disorder. This comes as a result of prolonged stress, or in case there are a number of traumatizing events that may occur. Just take an example. You are at work, maybe you have been serving for a very long time. After some time, they tell you that maybe the company is most likely to shut down, for example, because we are not making any sales. And maybe after that, you find after they have told you that you are trying to process it, then in 1 week's time, maybe you find they have cut your salary. That one happens. Maybe you find again your wife at home, maybe your child is sickly, or maybe this, and yet you are the only breadwinner within the family. And maybe in the end, the company is closed. So time comes whereby maybe you get another job again, and also maybe you lose it. Those negative events that keep on occurring, if you don't strike the balance to think about, yes, I need work, but on the other side, I also have to take time off and think about myself and see how positively can I emerge through these negative events that I might go through, then it becomes a very big issue, and you're most likely to suffer what we call PTSD. Mania is also one of the mental illnesses, or what we call bipolar, whereby you find an individual has what we call a high elevated mood that is beyond the norm. And at times, an individual can suffer psychosis. Psychosis, this is whereby you find maybe it is characterized by having delusions, nightmares, hearing voices. Why? Because you have been overstrained, that the mind is weak, can now not, resist other stresses or take on any other tension. And so in the end, you find what happens to you, what we can call in the layman's language, they may begin to think you are mad. Yeah. Okay, so what are the triggers for work-life imbalance? What makes us fail at the end of the day to balance between work and life? What makes you not wake up in the morning, go and work, come back at 5, do your duties, take care of yourself, take care of your family, and at the end of the day, you are happy, you are able to produce at work, you are able to take care of your family? What makes us fail, or what brings about the imbalance? We have expanded work area. For example, you're working far away from home. When you're working far away from home, it means you are most likely to focus more on work, because you are far away from your family. The only thing you can do is to worry about them, like how are they doing, how is life there, are they safe, are they secure enough? And so in the end, it brings a lot of tension and fears. And also maybe it also takes on the cost of living, because now you have to maintain almost 2 homes from your working place and the other side. Then multitasking, taking on so many jobs at one or at a time. You find you are doing so many tasks. You are a supervisor, for example, and you are being consulted maybe by over 10 people at the same time, and also maybe your supervisors also, they also need your attention. So you find you are doing this, you are doing this, you are doing this. In the end, you become overwhelmed, and at times you find you are compromising with your work, because you have to spend so many hours at office to accomplish all this, hence neglecting your personal life and even that of your family. we talk about women's dual career, paid and unpaid. Women at the same time mothers. They get office, they work, but remember, as they work, they're also thinking about what they're going to have for dinner as a family. What should I cook for my family? And when they reach home, they have to take care of the children, breastfeeding, cleaning up their homes, and all this. So this kind of multitasking, and maybe at times men we are chanced from office. Maybe you can come back home and sit on the TV, start watching the news as a way of self-care. It is so relaxing, and so that makes kind of women more vulnerable to kind of getting into work imbalance, and they can easily suffer these stresses, of course not neglecting men as well. Then low self-esteem. At times some individuals don't believe in themselves. For example, you get at work, you are given a duty, a responsibility, and you are like, can I manage it? You don't believe in yourself. And when you have low self-esteem, it also affects your social life, that you can never get involved with others, and that one also affects you because emotionally you remain packed. You don't have time to share challenges or difficulties with others. Then also we have social pressure and demand. Sometimes we find ourselves overwhelmed by social demands or other challenges of life, and at the end of the day we fail. For example, maybe you have lost a dear one, you have to go for a burial, and maybe at office they cannot give you a number of days maybe to allow you grieve and go through all these processes. Maybe you have to jump off one day, attend the burial, come back tomorrow at work, which is not healthy in a way, because you're supposed to have some time off to take care of your own feelings and strike the balance. Then we talk about life events, maybe marriage, children. For example, a young couple, you have been living happily, you wake up in the morning, a man goes to work, the wife goes to work, but now time comes whereby children have come in, and so you are kind of into a shock. You have now to adjust who stays home with the child and maybe who goes to work. And so it becomes a very big challenge. Or you find maybe you have to compromise with your work because you have to take care of your child back at home, and also like the marriage events that maybe come in. Then promotions, of course, they come with added responsibilities. Once you're promoted, of course you may be added the salary, but also the amount of work that you're expected to do this time is also it also shoots. And so it also comes with its own fears, anxieties, and if you are not well balanced, you might find you have to stay in office for long because you have been promoted and you have to now produce out of work, and then you begin now to compromise or you neglect your lifestyle or your family, and which in the long run affects your mental well-being. Next. Okay, continued. Perfectionism. Most people are perfectionists. Like when you go to work, you just want to do the best. You don't want to make any kind of mistake. Like you are that person who spends even a lot of time almost doing one work. In the end, it makes you spend more time doing one single task because you want to do it perfectly well, and in the end, you neglect maybe the time that you would have spared for your own well-being. Then at times when we fail to set and follow goals, it makes us to fail to make priorities, and in the end we become overwhelmed. And sometimes having no boundaries, like you forget to know that maybe I'm supposed to be at office at 8, and when it clocks 5 p.m. I must put my computer down and get back home. And when I reach home, I'm supposed to do A, B, C, D. Having the boundaries of, yes, I know there is work, but it shouldn't take place of my family. For example, you say it's a public holiday. For example, today in Kenya, they are celebrating their Independence Day. But again, you find you have to report to office. That means maybe they say your boss calls that tomorrow you must be in office. As an employee, you must know your boundaries, that no, today is a public holiday, which gives me time off to relax, be with myself, be with my family, and then in the end, you are able to relax and become mentally sound to report again to work when you are so fresh and rejuvenated. Poor time management. You know, when you have a challenge with managing your time, of course, definitely you will never hit any deadline. You'll always be left behind, and you find you have a lot of workload. Like work is packed, it's too much, and it comes a lot of tension because you begin to develop anxiety, fears of losing the job. You are because there's no productivity. You're not yielding any results. You are failing to meet deadlines, so it becomes a very big challenge. Or maybe every time you are the one who is being warned of reporting at work late and maybe leaving early. So all this kind of affects you. Then the already existing mental illnesses. Yes, sometimes you may find that maybe you are a victim of depression, or even someone who has ever gone, you're already having your personal stresses, and now work has come in and life has come in, whereby now you have to be on more attention. So you find this is coming when you are already vulnerable, so it becomes a very big challenge on your mental well-being. Next. Okay. Does balancing work and life mean dividing time for them equally? Maybe you could ask yourself this question. Should I go at work and I work 50%? Or and when I go home to attend to my family, I work 50%? Can it be 40 work and 60 life? Can it be 70 or 30? Maybe you can ask yourself this question. Move to the next slide. Okay, before we get into that, maybe we shall find it in our conclusion down there. But I can say work-life balance shouldn't be 50-50. No. What matters is you to strike the balance between the two and see you are not overtaken by work, neglecting your own lifestyle, and also you are not so much into your lifestyle, and then you forget that you have to work. So long as you're able to strike the balance, doesn't matter. Today I can work for 60% and I have 40% for my own time. Maybe tomorrow I have 60% for my own time, then I have 40 for work. I'm able to strike the balance and I remain fresh. And so, how do we cultivate a healthy work life balance? Self-awareness. My dear brothers and sisters out there listening to me, self-awareness is always very important. Know what you can do and know what you cannot do. Know your challenges as a person. Know your difficulties. Know your capacity. Know your level of productivity. And it also helps you to always say no, maybe in case assignments are becoming too many and maybe you cannot. And sometimes some of us, we know we suffer anxiety, we cannot take in so much. So once I'm aware of that, and maybe I see a lot is coming, I'm able to kind of push it back so that I'm able to maintain a good mental health state. Then seeking support. At times we are at work and yet we want to show to others that we are the best employees. They give you this, you want to do it by yourself. They give you this, you want to do it by yourself. In the end, you become overwhelmed. So seeking support, or what we call delegating, allowing people also to support you, to help you, or dividing the work that has been assigned to you, is always very important because it creates for you some more space to relax and breathe. Then communication. Communication is always very important. For example, if I'm at office and maybe I am most likely to go back home late, you can communicate at home and say, today maybe I'm caught up at office or I'm caught up in the field and I'm most likely to come back late. So you don't find tension at home. When you reach home, the people are expecting you that you are to come in late, and so there is no commotion, there are no quarrels. Maybe when you are coming late at office, it's good to communicate so that at least when you reach there, you are not, let's say, maybe insulted or warned that may come out, bring some fears. Or even when you are unable to meet deadlines, you don't have to commit suicide. Communicate early and maybe, for example, request for more time. Take time off. All employees at times were entitled to maybe to have some leave time. But sometimes you find you have been given leave, but again, you are using it at home again to do office work. Why? Because you do what we call procrastination. You keep postponing things. But now it's the time that you would have by your own self, maybe be with your family, be with the children, have some time off whereby you can also have fun, So taking time off is very important to break the routine so that you're not doing the same thing every now and then. Even when it goes to the family, take your family out so that you change the environment, you hang around, you refresh, you relax, set life and career goals. What do I want to achieve in life? And I must focus on achieving that. And at work, what do I want to achieve while I'm at office? So that at least you find you don't so much overdwell on work, maybe because you are working for other day, and maybe you don't know what exactly do I want to achieve in work and what are my goals in life. You find you are not, you are torn apart. And most of us live lives that are not goal, they are not goal oriented. And so in a way, it becomes a very big challenge. And so practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is that being putting yourself in that state of, in a quiet state whereby you are able to think about yourself, to think about your thoughts, to feel about your feelings, to do body scan, and also to discover ourselves. How am I doing? Can be done in a kind of a meditative way. Where am I doing right? Where do I need to change? Am I affected in any way? Am I experiencing any distress? Do I have any bodily pains? So you think about it's like scanning your whole system and get to know how you are doing every moment of your life. Then team building sessions. This is always encouraged in workplaces whereby at least as an employer, you can always have some time whereby okay, thank you for that. Then we have take one task at a time, to avoid of being overwhelmed. Do this when you are completed, then you can take on another activity rather than maybe taking in a lot and yet you are unable to produce results. Then be flexible enough in terms of changes. Switch from activity to another. For example, being flexible means, for example, when you are approached that maybe you have been doing something before you accomplish it and you have to jump into something else. It's good that you are able to adjust. Don't say now, I have this one, I haven't finished. No, it's always good to change because when you give yourself that flexibility, you reduce chances of being overwhelmed. Like I said, learn to delegate. Don't say, I must do it alone. Every time it must be me to do this. It must be me to do this. When you take on a lot, of course, it makes you easily break down. But when you are able to delegate to others, then it creates room for you to have less at your table and you are able to relax. And in that way, you are able to, okay, know your rights, of course. At times, as employees, maybe at our workplaces, we can be abused. Maybe every time you are forced to work beyond your time, you can complain, or sometimes you are denied your leave days for your own personal time. You can talk, or in case you are being given a lot that you are being assigned duties that you're not supposed to attend to, you can speak out. But now, most of us are lost into fear because maybe we fear losing the jobs, the opportunities, and so we end up into suffering. In everything that you do, prioritize your health, both mental and physical. Just know you can never go to office to work unless you are physically or strong or mentally well. Otherwise, you may not be able to work at office and you may not have the energy to attend to your family as well. Then seek psychosocial support. At times when you feel you are getting overwhelmed, maybe something's not going on well, it's good that you look for psychosocial support. You can go to a counselor. You can talk to someone and say, I feel I'm getting a burnout. Every time I'm in bed sleeping, I just dream about maybe I'm fighting with my boss or like I dream while I'm still at work office working and what that means something is not going on well. Being flexible is being repeated. Learn to delegate, of course, prioritize your health, set your boundaries, like I've also said, and also it is also good that you manage your time effectively well. I was asking, is it possible to balance life and work? Should it be by talking about work-life balance? That means it must be 50-50, and this is how it goes. In life, it is impossible to strike a 50 by 50 balance between career and personal life. Our major aim should be meeting the obligational demands from both spheres without compromising our health. For example, I wake up as a housewife, prepare breakfast for my family, prepare my children to go to school, and then I wake up, I do all that early, and I drive them to school, or I ensure they have gone to school. And so it gives me time to be at office earlier. I'm able to do my duties because I know I've done all my home activities in the morning. And then in the afternoon, even when I'm coming back, at least I know now I'm getting into a different phase for my family. But sometimes maybe you don't wake up early. That is failure at work. Also, you begin to get overwhelmed. So I beg your pardon. You don't have to select maybe a 50 by 50. Otherwise, you act like a robot because you want to be. I mean, for example, now at times it's not even possible for your information. For example, we report to offices at 8 in the morning, and then we leave at 5. Those are almost 8 working hours. And so whenever when we go home, we're just going to sleep, or maybe to relax with the family for a very short time, and then maybe sleep. And so you find that you are spending 8 hours at work and maybe a few hours with the family members. And so that kind of brings a big challenge. And if maybe you have only a time for a weekend, and maybe your health is of great focus, put it as a first priority, because it is when you are strong that you may be in a position to produce results. So this can be achieved by identifying priorities in both spheres as seasons of life change. My dear brothers and sisters listening to me this afternoon, your mental health is as important as your physical health, and anything that affects it should be given attention. Someone is asking, how can one handle personal life and work life? The most important thing is to know that we need the two. That is, you need to work because you have to earn something for your daily survival. On the other side, also you need to be alive for you to be able to work. And so, for example, if today you went to work and maybe you are doing casual labor and you find you are working the whole day and night, when will you have time to rest? And maybe suppose you are overwork yourself and then you end up falling sick. That means the next day you may not be able to go and work. And so what is important is you to have in your mind that you need the two. You need life, you need work. But of course, life comes first. And so what matters is strike the balance. Work, but at the end of the day, have some time for your own self, whereby you're able to be with the family, read a book, or do some of other activities that kind of make you happy, and you are able to relax in a way so that you remain fresh and you don't again find you are overwhelmed by work. So just try to strike the balance between the two because we need all of them.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Now let's go to the next question. Here is that. How can I check that my work life is balanced or not? How to determine that?
Okay, thank you so
Yeah.
much for that question. How can I check that my work life is balanced or not? First of all, I don't know. Wherever we are listening from, I know we always have different working hours. And so sometimes when you find that maybe you report so early before the time you're supposed to be there, every time you don't feel like you need to go back to work, that means you are getting a burnout. You are losing interest in the job because it is breaking you down. So the moment you begin to lose interest, or you don't enjoy your work and you are not even happy doing it, that means your work-life balance is not balanced at all. Because if you're able to strike a balance, you should be able to work. You go home, relax with the mind, with yourself and the family, and that one should even give you the zeal and the passion tomorrow to wake up very early and you're rushing to office because you are enjoying life, like you are striking the balance. Work is not breaking you down, But on the other side, also you are finding enough time to be by yourself and to be with the family. But if you find that maybe you are now beginning to curse the other side, then that means there is a challenge somewhere. So the moment you begin to feel work is giving you a lot of distress, then you are entering into a breakdown. So the earlier you rethink on how you are working, the better, so that you
To thank you, sir, that you give your valuable time and share your valuable knowledge with us. And from Divya Corona organization as well, we will thank you. And I hope we will get another chance to get our knowledge from your side. Thank you so much. And also thanks to the audience who listened to the sir.